Hi cellos! In this video we're going to go over a backwards extension hand shape. We're going to talk about what that is and what notes you can play with it. So go ahead and get your cello so that you can follow along with me. A backwards extension is a new hand shape that allows us to reach different notes on our cello. Specifically with our first finger, we would use a backwards extension if we need to reach a note that's lower than our first finger, which in reality means higher up on our fingerboard. So we would use this for B flat on the A string and also E flat on the D string. Same thing for A flat on the G string and also D flat on the C string. So anytime we stretch our first finger back into backwards extended, we're taking our first finger and we're lowering it half a step. You might have heard me talking to the violins and violas about playing low one, and this is kind of your version of low one. It's a little bit trickier though because we have to get our hand into a new hand shape. So we're going to talk about that hand shape first. Normally when we play, our fingers are all nice and lined up and pretty perpendicular to the string and nice and parallel with each other. But in a backwards extended hand shape, this first finger tips itself back so that we have this kind of weird V shape right here. And we end up playing more on the side of our first finger. That allows us to have a really big stretch in between our first and second finger. And that allows us to get that note back in tune so that it's halfway between the top of our fingerboard and where our first finger normally goes. To get this hand shape in the right place, we're going to do something a little bit silly. I'm going to look silly, you're going to feel silly, but let's take our fingers and we're going to place them on our face. I'm going to make my first finger into a mustache, and I'm going to put my second finger on my chin. And so if we're in this position, this is pretty much how our fingers normally go. And then if I take my jaw and I drop it down, it's going to drop my second finger and it's going to make a big space between my 1 and 2. It'll look like this. I know I look really ridiculous, but you notice when I drop this down, my first finger makes this kind of shape that we're looking for backwards extensions. So let's try it again. See this big V in between our first and second? That's what we're looking for. So when I play this on my cello, I'm going to leave my 2, 3, and 4 and my thumb exactly where they are, and I'm going to tip that first finger way back here. I'm keeping all of my fingers down right now so I can just practice this stretch, but eventually all we're going to play is our first finger. So I take my first finger from its normal position and I tip it back. You're also going to notice that something happens to my elbow over here. I want to see if you can notice it before I tell you exactly what it is. Did you see it? To help my first finger stretch, I take my elbow from its nice up high position and I lower it just a little bit. If I don't move my elbow, it's kind of hard to stretch that first finger back. And then that can lead to what I call the claw. Watch out for the claw, where your first finger is making this curved shape instead of a nice straight shape. This is actually not stretching as far, even though it might feel right at first. And it's definitely not going to lead to an in-tune note. So make sure you pick up that first finger and lay it back. You're going to notice that you'll play slightly more on the side of your finger than on the squishy pad of your finger. All right, let's see if we can figure out how to play these notes and get them in tune. Now that we've practiced the hand shape, we're just going to focus on our first finger. So I'm going to keep all the rest of my fingers up, and I'm just going to tip my first finger back. If I play this on the A string, I'm playing the note B flat. And I can tell if this note's in tune if I play my open string and then my backwards extended 1, it should sound like Jaws. When I put this finger down, again, remember, I'm kind of on the side of my finger, not right on the squishy part, and I'm tipping my first finger back. So the rest of my fingers, when they go down eventually, they can be in the right place. Let's try that B flat again. B flat is a half step lower than B natural. So we got to make sure we listen for that good sound. Great. So if I want to play the rest of my notes on the A string, say I'm playing in a key signature that has B flat, I'm most likely going to have C natural right after it. It's not very common that you find flats and sharps mixed together, at least not in 6th grade music. So we have B flat, then we have 2 for C, just like normal, and then we have 4 fingers for D. It can be hard to get that 2 and 4 in tune because our B flat is pulling it back. So really make sure you have a big stretch between your 1 and 2. I'm going to play all the notes on the A string from open A up to high D using B flat. All right, we're going to try these on all of the strings so we know all of these notes. And then I'm going to give you a little tip that can make this backwards extension just a little bit easier when you need to play a lot of notes backwards extended. On the D string, if I backwards extend my first finger, I'm playing the note E flat. So I'm going to check it by playing jaws first with my open string. Then if I play the rest of my notes, I have E flat, F natural, and G. So starting from open D, it should sound like this. On the G string, if I play my first finger in backwards extended position, I'm playing the note A flat. So it should sound like this. Now in a key signature that has A flat, you're very likely to have B flat, which again is second finger. All of my notes on the G string will sound like this. Okay, and then on this C string, our first finger is normally D. It's going to be D flat in backwards extended position. And we will also usually have E flat, which is second finger. Really check when you're practicing these to make sure you have that good space between 1 and 2 and that you're more on the side of your first finger and avoid the claw. Jaws sounds really super good on the C string. So that might be a great way to practice your backwards extensions. All right, let me give you a real quick tip about how to play this without stressing out your hand. Depending on the shape and the size of your fingers, it may be really, really hard to hold that B flat while you also hold down your 4th finger for playing D. Some people can make this happen pretty easily, but even for me, this is kind of an uncomfortable stretch. It doesn't hurt and it definitely shouldn't hurt, but if I had to hold my hand like this all the time, it would be a little bit tiring. So the good news is that we can kind of pivot away from that B flat finger when we go to play our C and our D and give it a little bit of a break. And then when we're ready to come back to it, we just stretch it backwards. So what I'm going to do is I play my B flat, and then as I play my C, I'm going to start to kind of lift my B flat away just so it can relax a little bit. And then my 4th finger goes down. So it's kind of like your second finger is acting like the bottom of a rocking chair or something. We're pivoting on that finger so we can reach both our B flat when we need it and our 4 fingers for D when we need it. So if I do that, here's what it would look like if I play from open A. Now, I hope you noticed that I didn't collapse my first finger into my second finger and I didn't lift it way far off the cello. It's just a little tiny release so that I have just enough space to tip my hand forward to my 4th finger, and then I don't have to stretch extra far to get back. So don't let that first finger creep back up. Just make sure that it stays pretty much stretched out, but it just relaxes a little bit. All right, you guys, that's how we play backwards extensions. We're going to be using these first for our B flats and E flats, but I wanted to make sure you knew how to play them on all 4 strings. Go ahead and practice that hand shape. Do not be afraid to get silly with practicing spreading your 1 and your 2 out, and make sure you maybe practice this in a mirror so you can watch out for the claw. Make sure that first finger stays in a good position. All right, have fun practicing.